Hello and welcome to the English Listen Lab. Today, we begin the inspiring journey of Emma, a young girl who was born with fading eyesight but never let it stop her from chasing her dreams. Despite losing her vision completely, she refused to give up her passion for sprinting. Through determination and resilience, she trained harder than ever, using her remaining senses to navigate the track. Let's follow Emma's incredible journey to becoming one of the fastest blind sprinters in the world. Running through darkness, the journey of a blind sprinter. Chapter 1. A world slowly fading. Emma was born in a small town, surrounded by green hills and endless blue skies. As a child, she loved watching the birds soar high, the flowers bloom, and the colors of the sunset paint the horizon. But as the years passed, something began to change. At first, she thought she was just tired. The lights seemed dimmer, the colors less vibrant. She often tripped over things, even when they were right in front of her. Doctors confirmed her worst fear. She had a rare degenerative eye condition that would eventually take away her sight. The news devastated her parents. They wept, but Emma, at just 8 years old, was too young to understand what it truly meant. "Will I still be able to run?" she asked innocently. Running was her passion, the wind against her face, the rhythm of her feet on the ground. It was freedom. Her parents hesitated before answering. "Yes," her mother finally said, "but it might be harder." Emma didn't like that answer. She decided right then and there that she would run no matter what. Chapter 2. The last glimpse of the track. By the time Emma turned 10, her vision had worsened. She could barely make out the faces of her friends, and reading required her to hold books inches from her nose. But on the track, she felt free. Her coach, Mr. Anderson, had watched her since she first stepped onto the field. He knew she was fast, but he also knew her condition would only get worse. "Emma, we need to start preparing," he said one afternoon after practice. "Preparing for what?" she asked, wiping sweat from her brow. "For the moment you can't see the track anymore," he said softly. The words hit her like a punch. She had known this day would come, but hearing it out loud made it real. She turned away, blinking back tears. "Then teach me how to run without sight," she finally whispered. Mr. Anderson smiled. "That's exactly what I had in mind." That day, Emma took her last long look at the track, committing it to memory before the darkness took over. Chapter 3. Training without sight. Emma's new training was unlike anything she had done before. She ran with a blindfold, relying only on sound and touch. Mr. Anderson placed a rope in her hand, guiding her step by step. At first, she stumbled and fell. The world felt unpredictable, dangerous, but she refused to quit. Her parents worried. "Are you sure about this?" her mother asked, watching her daughter struggle. "Yes," Emma replied, her voice steady. "I need to learn now, while I still have some sight left." She memorized the number of steps between the start and finish line. She learned to listen for the sound of her coach's claps and use them as markers. She trained in darkness, pushing her body to its limits. By the time she turned 12, she could run as fast, if not faster, than when she could still see. But running without sight was only half the battle. The real challenge was still ahead. Chapter 4. The first race as a blind runner. Emma was nervous. It was her first official race since her vision had completely faded. She stood at the starting line, gripping the rope attached to her guide runner, Mia. "Are you ready?" Mia whispered. Emma took a deep breath. She couldn't see the track, but she could feel the earth beneath her feet. She could hear the roar of the crowd, the whistle of the wind. The gun fired. Emma ran. At first, she struggled to match Mia's pace. The rope between them pulled and slackened, making it hard to keep a steady rhythm. But then she found the flow. Step by step, her body remembered. The training paid off. She ran with all her strength, trusting Mia, trusting herself. She didn't win that race, but when she crossed the finish line, she heard something even better than victory. Cheers, not out of sympathy, but out of admiration. She had proved that being blind did not mean giving up. Chapter 5. The setback. Emma trained harder than ever. She wanted to become the fastest blind sprinter in the world. But success wasn't a straight path. During a crucial practice session, she miscalculated her steps and fell hard onto the track. Pain shot through her ankle. She gritted her teeth, trying to stand, but the pain was too intense. Mr. Anderson ran over. "Emma, don't move," he said. She was taken to the hospital. The doctors confirmed her worst fear. She had a serious sprain. She would be out for months. Lying in bed, unable to run, Emma felt the first traces of doubt creep into her mind. "What if I can't come back from this?" she asked Mia one evening. Mia squeezed her hand. "You will, because you're Emma. And Emma doesn't quit." Emma closed her eyes. The darkness was no longer new, but for the first time, it felt overwhelming. Chapter 6. A new beginning with the national team. Emma's injury forced her to take a break, but the invitation from the national team reignited her passion. She had always dreamed of competing at the highest level, but now she would be training alongside the best blind sprinters in the country. When she arrived at the training facility, she felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. The other athletes had been competing for years. Some had been blind since birth, while others, like Emma, had lost their vision over time. The head coach, Mr. Collins, welcomed her. "You've got talent, Emma, but talent alone won't make you the best. Are you ready to push yourself harder than ever?" Emma nodded without hesitation. She knew this was her chance. Her new training was intense. She had to improve her speed, endurance, and reaction time. She trained with a guide runner, learning to sync her movements perfectly. It was exhausting, but she refused to quit. And then came the real test, their first practice race against the fastest runners on the team. Could she keep up? Chapter 7. The race that changed everything. The day of the practice race arrived. Emma and her guide runner stood at the starting line, heart pounding. "On your marks! Get set! Go!" She launched forward, her legs moving in perfect rhythm with her guide. The sound of footsteps filled the track. The wind rushed past her face. She felt alive, but halfway through, doubt crept in. She lost focus for a split second and stumbled. It wasn't a hard fall, but it cost her the race. Emma clenched her fists, frustration burning inside her. After practice, Coach Collins pulled her aside. "Emma, do you know what your biggest obstacle is?" She expected him to say her blindness. Instead, he said, "It's your mind. You think too much. You hesitate. Trust your instincts, and you'll be unstoppable." That night, Emma replayed his words in her head. If she wanted to be the best, she had to let go of fear. Her next race would be different. Chapter 8. Overcoming Fear. Determined to improve, Emma trained harder than ever. She spent hours practicing in complete silence, relying only on her guide's voice and the rhythm of her own breathing. One evening, Coach Collins gave her a challenge. "Run without your guide for 10 seconds. Emma hesitated. But no buts, just run. Taking a deep breath, she let go of the tether and sprinted. For those 10 seconds, she felt completely free. She wasn't just a blind runner, she was a runner, period. When she stopped, she was shaking. But for the first time, it wasn't out of fear. She was ready. Chapter 9. The World Championship. Emma qualified for the World Para-Athletics Championships. It was her biggest race yet, and the pressure was overwhelming. At the stadium, she could hear the crowd cheering, the announcers calling names, the tension in the air. She tightened her grip on the tether. "We've got this," she told her guide. The starting gun fired. Emma ran with everything she had. Every muscle burned, every step was calculated. She pushed harder than ever before. Then, in the final stretch, she heard footsteps catching up behind her. It was now or never. With one last burst of speed, she crossed the finish line. Had she won? Chapter 10. The fastest blind sprinter in the world. The stadium fell silent. Then the announcer's voice boomed. Emma had broken the world record! Tears streamed down her face as she realized what she had accomplished. She wasn't just a blind sprinter, she was a champion. In that moment, she remembered the little girl who had once asked, "Will I still be able to run?" The answer was clear. She didn't just run, she flew, Emma's journey was never about proving others wrong. It was about proving to herself that she was limitless. Her story inspired millions, showing that no obstacle, whether physical or mental, could stop someone who refused to give up. What did you think of Emma's journey? Would you have kept going despite the challenges? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to follow for more inspiring stories like this.